Hello, and welcome to Learn Python 3 the Hard Way, exercise 36. In this exercise, it's kind of a turning point. At this point, you know everything you need to write basic programs. Simple programs are possible with what you know now. So, the only thing you don't really know is how to do testing, object-oriented programming, setting up your own modules, like a lot of just sort of like extra things that you should know as a programmer. And I would say the biggest topic you don't know is object-oriented programming. So we'll get into that. Like there's a whole bunch of the book that's just that. In this exercise, I give out a set of rules, right? The rules are designed to make you think a certain way about topics. But I have this warning. Never be a slave to the rules in real life. For training purposes, you need to follow these rules to make your mind strong. But in real life, sometimes these rules are just stupid. If you think a rule is stupid, try not using it. Okay? Now, I'm going to give, most of these rules are straightforward. You kind of always have to do this like 95% of the time. Okay? So, if you do these rules while you're doing the book, and then when you go to work on your own stuff, these rules get in the way or they cause problems, like I said, try not to use them. I'm going to give you a good example of when one of these rules doesn't really work. Okay, this first one, every if statement must have an else. Okay. This is controversial, but the purpose of that is in situations like this. So if I didn't have an else clause here, okay, when someone entered a choice that I didn't cover, it would just sort of like disappear. It would basically fall through is what we call it. And it would exit the function. The way most programmers write code is they write all their ifs that they can conceive of. And then they don't write an else, or they demand that someone or they themselves justify why the else is necessary. It's as if they think the else is very expensive, when really it's not. It's just, it doesn't cost anything to add an else clause. Okay. So for them, they want a justification. Why should I add it? Why do I need it? Okay. I'm trying to train you to think differently. When you write an else, you just always add, or when you write an if, you always add the else clause. Then after you've added the else clause, you'll see, oh yeah, there's a whole bunch of choices I'm not covering, so I got to do that. But let's say for whatever reason in this one you go, you do something like this. No, I don't really need to do anything in the else. Well, then in that case, you don't need the else. You can just delete it, okay? Now, the reason why this is significant is it's going to change the way you think about if-else statements to be better than what most programmers think. You're going to think in terms of, have I covered all the choices? And automatically you're going to add the safety valve just in case. And then you're going to think, okay, I have to prove to myself why I don't need it. Most other programmers think, I prove to myself why I do need this. You have to prove to yourself why you don't need it before you remove it. And that's just a better, safer way to write it. It's just almost always you need it, and then you prove to yourself why you don't, okay? Now I'm going to give you a short, quick example. And I'm going to do a new file for that. All right, guess I'm not going to do a new file for that. I'm going to do this. Okay, so if I have, let's say, cats equal, I got a for loop, right? And I go tabby, Persian, Siamese. I'm probably totally not spelling that right, but let's say I have some cats and I'm going to do I want to find all the cats that start with P, right? So I'm going to do for cat and cats, okay? And then I'm going to say if cat, I'm going to just say I'm going to find all the Persians equals Persian, right? Then let's just do print found it, and then else. Okay, so why do I need an else clause there? So most people, when they read my book, will do that. They'll say like, okay, well, why do I need an else clause there? See, now in this case, you don't, because you're just going through a list and you're collecting. The else clause is kind of pointless, you know. What you might do even is you might do something called a break right after your for, right after you found it. You might do this. There's really not much of a reason to have this else clause there. But training yourself to always add the else and then go, wait, okay, if I go there and I have it, no, actually I do not need the else. Okay, I can remove it. You've justified to yourself why you can remove it. Most other programmers will try to justify why they should add it, but you just add it normally, do it right away, and then justify why you should not, right? Because most of the time you do. While loops are another example. I try to write my while loops, like I is less than 7, and then I do I equals I plus equals 1. I just do that so that I know I have my incrementer in there. I don't have to remember to add it or anything. Now there's some while loops where maybe you don't write that, right? But you would have to do a while loop and justify why do you need to add that, okay? So those are some of the rules, just a quick example of some of the things that you have to do with these rules. Read through them, try to remember them, keep this around as sort of like something to look over. Don't feel bad if it's really hard to follow these. It's not so much a game of being perfect and perfectly correct, but more of trying your best at maintaining this rule set while you train from now on. All right, that's the end of that exercise. Like I said, just read this exercise and try to internalize it and keep in mind why these things exist. And don't follow them if they don't really make any sense.